portion of the book is when he is in his 20s and 30s, becoming an artist and finding Camille. Camille is his ideal. He first sees her in a train station and he sketches her because he's late for his missed train, and then he finds her 3-4 years later in a bookshop and asks her to model. And he is her ideal because she is looking for a way out of her dull upper middle class life, doing what her mom wants her to do, doing what she's supposed to do in her society. She's tired of the whole thing, and she greatly romanticizes anybody in the arts, and she wants it to be in the arts so badly, but she's not, and that's a very complicated kind of reason. So he becomes her ideal, and she is his ideal, and that combined together with no money can be a challenge sometimes, and other times a joy. I'd like to read you his first submission to the Salon of Paris, which was the one place where you really had to get your pictures in there, because then people would see it and they review it. You could start your work as an artist, So everybody was extremely anxious when it came time to submit to the Salon. Are there any chairs that are free in there?
2 chairs here.
There's a couple of chairs there. I'm terribly delighted you've all come, but I'm chagrined that there are not enough chairs. I could write a scene with more chairs. Maybe that would work now. Okay, this scene also has the third major character in the book, who's Frederick Basile, who was Claude's closest friend in those difficult years. And they're sharing a studio together. A month after his return from the Basile home in Languedoc, Claude wrapped 2 of his paintings in canvas and set off. He could see the crowd at the door of the enormous Palais de l'Industrie on the Seine and the Champs-Élysées. Hundreds of artists were already lining up, squeezing in one at a time to submit their work and receive a numbered receipt. Men carting sculptures in wagons, some women carrying paintings almost larger than themselves, all pushing like people on a bread line. 2 men began to shout, and one shoved the other. "I was standing here first, monsieur." "You are a pig, monsieur." Almost every artist he knew in Paris was there, the hopeful ones, the successful painters who barely glanced in his direction, the students from the art school, which had closed. They would have left anyway. The teacher had predicted no future for any of them if they insisted on painting in such a loose style. Paul Cézanne called to him. "Pissarro submitted already and gone to work. Where's Auguste?" Either already submitted or settling some problem with his mother and sisters. They spoke briefly and then fell into silence, inching forward slowly. When Claude looked back some time later, a few hundred men had taken their place behind him. He put up his coat collar against the March wind. A while later, he passed through the enormous triumphal arch of the entrance. Within the arch, high above, huge sculpted angels blew their stone trumpets, and a heroic statue personifying France sat crowned with a halo of stars. Each artist felt silent at the grandeur. A withered man sitting behind a table accepted his paintings, logging them into a large book with a slow, scratchy pen. M-O-N-E-T, he spelled, writing as carefully as an aged schoolboy. Then the 2 paintings were lifted onto a cart by a muscular workman, and Claude walked away, hands in his pockets. It was like leaving his soul to see his paintings stacked with so many others and wheeled away to the echoing rooms. The judges will stare at them for a few minutes, he thought, and then pass on to other work. He could see the committee in their dark coats and hats. Everyone knew how it was in there when they chose among 20,000 works of art. A minute's glance, an off-the-cuff decision, giving a shake of the head for a negative vote, then passing on to the next. A mark noted on a scrap of paper to be counted later. Was the work original or not original? How was the perspective? Was the subject properly executed? Just the sort of thing they wanted, in other words, something of the style of 50 years before. Nothing vivid and moving and real, nothing like he and his friends were trying to create. He paused, fingers against his lips. Still, perhaps not. Perhaps it would be different this time. Perhaps when looking at his, they would stroke their beards and mutter among themselves, a work of genius.